moment because when I start talking, they might think I'm being sarcastic, or they're going to say, "How can this be a joyous day for what's coming out your mouth?" But that's what they call me, T-Rex. I like the wreck shop. So yeah.
So just so you know, I started the live stream on my channel. Now it's probably not. This is my first time ever doing a live on my channel, Life After Religion. So it's probably not people watching right now, but it could pick up. And then once the video was done and it's out there, it'll be free for people to view it. So just so you know. So just setting the stage. Today is January 15th, and it's a national holiday because it is the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And that's why we're here today. We want to talk about it.
2024.
2024. And I think the way I titled the stream was MLK's Dream in 2024, because that's what we want to talk about. He gave that, because he gave the how is it relevant today? How is it stand up today? Because he gave that I had a dream speech, I believe, in 1963. He was assassinated in 1968, 5 years later. And one thing I noticed, I'm gonna drop this and open the floor for you. His views started to change leading up to his assassination. But once he died, what lived on was really that speech from 1963, I Had a Dream. And so that became, other people gained control of his voice and his message. So every year on his birthday, that's reiterated. The I Have a Dream speech and all the principles that came with that. But the big question is, because a lot of people have mixed opinions about Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership and whether he took us the right direction, so on and so forth. So I want to set the stage like that and, just open up with your thoughts. And what's your thoughts on MLK Day 2024?
Okay, well, let's dive right into it. Of course, you got the MLK, you got the basketball game with the San Antonio Spurs with one team, and then you had the Grizzlies and what you call it, the Grizzlies and
the Warriors.
But it's a very touchy moment for me, so I'm willing to even turn my TV off from that game to jump on. And I called somebody, I ain't gonna say no names, but I was hearing Shaq, I was hearing that girl Candace, the Caucasian guy's name is Shaq. Shaq really wasn't doing too much talking, but Candace and Charles Barkley and the Caucasian guy, you know what I'm saying? It seemed like nobody wanted to get to the nitty gritty. Martin Luther King passed and nothing hasn't changed. We keep saying what he has done. What he has done is cool. I'm not negating, and I don't want nobody to take the wrong way. Like Malcolm X, I feel like his day should be celebrated just as much as Martin Luther King. But as far as Malcolm X, they only show his TV show with Denzel Washington. Outside of that, we don't really hear about Malcolm X. But with Dr. Martin Luther King, they don't show the movie, but you got everybody speaking on him. I feel like that's messed up.
Well, you said, so we'll touch on that. Why MLK is more PC, politically correct, or digestible in media than Malcolm X. But you said that, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. came and did his thing and nothing has changed. I need to speak on that for just a little bit, because you remember back when he was here, you had whites only this, whites only that. You got to sit at the back of the bus, that kind of open racist, open segregation. So would you say that's changed and you not see that as positive?
This question is so heavy. I gotta keep my eyes closed so I can make sure I stay on top of it. Cause what you was just asking me, you know, when a question is so heavy, you gotta close your eyes and
Yeah.
really meditate so you can get an accurate answer to that. Where I'm about to go is, I hate to say it, it's almost like Christian based. If you look at Martin Luther King, it was all about peace.
Mm.
And somebody that's been or people, I ain't gonna say somebody, people that's been used and abused and taken advantage of is not gonna come from a aspect of seek and destroy.
Mm.
They groom to come from a peaceful mindset.
Hold on,
And
say
I'm
that again. A person that what is
groom, groom. Keep it real. Groom. Because
Mhm.
Martin Luther King was, if let's look at it, Malcolm X was a Muslim. Uh Martin Luther King was Christian. One was
Facts?
radical, one was peace. One was non-confrontational.
Okay.
And Christianity, from what we know and what we study, ain't from a historical black person mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep it 100. That Christianity and that Bible came from one-sided perspective.
Okay.
So, to me, the way Martin Luther King was talking and the reason why nothing ain't changed is because the powers that be and the leverage that he was coming from, not at the end, but at the beginning, was out of fear or a compromise.
Hmm.
It was when I mean by a compromise, somebody can tell that you're not fully confident because the words that you choose, your philosophy that you use, and everything. And when they see that your philosophy coming from a philosophy that was their philosophy, it's like we got him. We still got it. We still winning. Malcolm X philosophy wasn't the same philosophy or mindset of what they ingrained into our people. So
Well,
he
what do
seemed
you
more
think?
threat.
Well, what do you think is the major difference between Malcolm and Martin's philosophy?
Oh, it's real simple. One, I ain't about to get no long straight. One was white, one was Caucasian, one wasn't not Caucasian.
Hmm.
I'm gonna say it like that. Straight to the punch. Straight, that's a gut punch. One was Caucasian, one was not Caucasian. Not saying that Malcolm X philosophy was strictly for us, because Muslim, and I'm not picking no religion, so I have to say this. Muslim or the Islamic thing is not our culture neither.
Facts.
So I have to make that very clear. Neither one represented us to where we get in the respect and the justification, meaning we are incorporated into history as a whole. So neither one side, Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, I am speaking on behalf of, I'm taking one religion over another. That's one thing I need to make clear. I'm not taking Christianity and I'm not taking Muslim, neither.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important because at the end of the day, yeah, Martin Luther King Jr. was aligned with Christianity. His and some people even say that he pulled from Gandhi, but I won't get into Gandhi. And then we know that Malcolm X was aligned with Islam. But at the end of the day, they each were leading based off of philosophy, a specific philosophy that, regardless of religion, that philosophy is what they were pushing at the end of the day. And I'm hearing, when I hear you say the major difference was one was Caucasian, one was black, I think you said, or something to that effect. The way I see that is Malcolm X had a pro-black philosophy. He said that based on the conditions in America at the time and in the past, the best solution for black people, which were under open oppression, was to separate and do their own thing, right? He didn't say that we couldn't collaborate, but he said we needed to separate so that we could control our own situation, our own narrative, ultimately our own destiny. Whereas Martin, when you say it's Caucasian, Martin was more integration. So Malcolm was separation. Martin was integration. Martin said, look, we don't need to separate and do our own thing. We need to everybody come together, everybody be happy, everybody. Now, one of his famous quotes is, don't look at a man or a person by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. So with his philosophy, he was trying to change the hearts of people and then hoping that if you could change the hearts of white people and the outlook of white people, it would change our circumstances. So I see that as him still putting the power in the hand of the people who was doing us wrong. Whereas Malcolm was saying, you know what, we need to take our stuff, take our own power in our own hands.
Yeah, but it's very, how can I say it? When we came here before slavery, after slavery, Caucasians done came in and took seas and made what it is now. Every ethnicity still has their place as far as history, as far as culture and everything. But Africa, Al-Kebalon, the ancient name before Africa, I'll say Al-Kebalon, it was more like everybody's pulling from them resources. And since everybody pulling from them resources, everybody is pulling from the resources from here in the United States, meaning like, we got what we want, but we still winning. And it seemed like it's like we won't come to terms and saying, you know what, we need our own to the certain degree. Like, we not compromising. It's like until we can break away from what we was taught as tradition, and that's where I'm that's why I called and made a point of reference to somebody on the phone. It's like the traditions that we going by, long as we keep playing along by them traditions, nothing is not going to change. We literally have to stop playing along with the bullshit.
Let me reel you in and get you specific, because the title of this stream is MLK's Dream in 2024. So I hear you with some criticisms for, and correct me if I'm wrong, with Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy. And I hear you saying that, am I hearing you correctly by saying it's not working in today's time? Martin Luther King Jr.'s philosophy. Are you saying that it's not working in today's time?
And to me, no, and it never will.
Well, tell us why. Be specific with what's wrong with his philosophy and why you don't think it's working today.
Oh, it's one-sided.
Okay.
It's one-sided. He was no more than what Malcolm X said. He was, to me, it's like he was the house nigga. He wasn't, how, let's put it like this. I was watching the Malcolm X movie. Martin Luther King was talking like the house nigga. Even though, Okay, then. If so many house niggas can be in the house, because it's a house, it's a mansion. You got probably just speculating. You might got 3 or 4 house niggas. You might got four, four women that's in there. So you got 8, 4 men, 4 women. But then you may have damn near 120 slaves that's working the fucking field. Martin Luther King was, to me, was a house nigga. It was a compromise. It, like Malcolm X said in this movie, boss, when the boss gets sick, boss man, you sick? No, we sick. You ain't sick, but you love your boss or your master so much, we sick, and you
But do
ain't sick.
you think Martin Luther King was on that though? Do you think he was like
He started off like that. He started. But when he seen that peace talk and loving wasn't working, closer to the end of his role, he's probably his feelings and his philosophy was changing. He didn't have a chance to bring it out.
right?
He was stripped from that. Because from what I was hearing through the grapevine, that before Malcolm X got killed and before his time was winding down, they was thinking of doing a duo, like linking up together.
Right.
I don't have the material, but I've been hearing that through the grapevine, to where the philosophy that they're pushing, that Martin Luther King was talking about, wasn't the same philosophy that he was going to push if they did not kill him like they did. That whole first philosophy, that I had a dream and all that other stuff, I don't think that would have been his closing. It would have been, if he was still living and Malcolm X was still living, it'd have been something totally different. And if that would have happened, this conversation wouldn't even be going on right now.
Quick question for you, and then I got a comment. Now you saying MLK was a house nigga. That's strong language. Do you think he knew that's what he was? Do you
Not
think
at the
that was
time. No,
okay?
no,
Okay.
no. He stepped on the scene bravely. But as he's seeing that the tactics that he was using wasn't changing shit, and what he was going through, he probably realized, okay. And then he seen, I think they said he didn't even seen from himself when he was having he wasn't telling black people to do it. They was taking his philosophy and they was still getting treated badly. He was like, okay, this not working.
Right.
So, but that philosophy that he was coming from was from a Christian mindset, a religious mindset.
Mm.
We shall overcome someday, turn the other cheek, that Gandhi shit. No. That's why it pisses me off, like I said earlier to somebody. Unless we know, until we understand our history before Malcolm X, before Martin Luther King, study our history before we got here, how we was as a culture, a lot of people ain't even gonna, a lot of people not gonna get what I'm talking about. So
yeah, I'm with you on that.
yeah, so I have to say that because a lot of people may take what I'm saying as disrespect towards Dr. Martin Luther King, not Malcolm X, but Dr. Martin Luther King. Now he may have known, but he didn't start off with that. He started off like what you saying, ass in, like the older people say. He was starting from the ass in and working his way back. Instead of his philosophy should have been starting from when this shit went down to the point where he got moving forward. So it was like his philosophy was telling us to work from the ass in and working back to before all this shit was contaminated, before slavery, before
Yeah, yeah.
colonialism. And I think that's what's so fucked up. It's like, to me, pardon my French, I think that's why at us as a people, because Caucasians already know that we working ass backwards. Even with our education and stuff, not to jump off the topic, we always work from the ass in. We never start at the head.
Okay.
To knock somebody out, you got to hit them with a knockout punch to the head, and the body will crumble. We always work from like the feet up instead of working from the head down.
Okay. Let me jump in. So you're saying a lot. So I want to go rewind a little bit. MLK. So I asked you, did you think he knew he was a house Negro? You said no. I agree. I think Martin Luther King, one, he was a genius. He was a master orator. Everybody know that's why everybody loves him, because he knew how to connect with the people from behind the pulpit and in front of a crowd. Mm-hmm. But he was a sincere believer in Christianity. And I think that if he was misled at any time, that's why. Because he took that Christian philosophy of turn the other cheek, or the philosophy that says do not repay evil for evil, but overcome evil with good. Mm-hmm. Pray for those who hate you and despitefully use you, all of that stuff. He took that to the full extent, right? Because he believed that if he could just demonstrate that even if you, like Job said, though you slay me, yet will I trust him. So he said, I'm going to go out here to Selma, Alabama, wherever, and let these white people beat the crap out of me. I'm not going to lift a finger back so I can show the world that, look, it's not us, it's them. You know? And I think it's a lot wrong with that philosophy. I think the only thing he really accomplished was to show the face of white supremacy or the face of racism. And what I mean by that is he exposed the face of racism and white supremacy in the same way that George Floyd exposed the face of police brutality. Meaning that it was in your face to the extent that you couldn't deny it. The man got his knee on his neck for 8 minutes and some change. He died in front of you. That ain't police brutality? No one could argue that, because when it was on camera, it was in your face, and Floyd was powerless. The police had all the power, and he abused it. No one could deny it. MLK did the same. He accomplished the same thing with the civil disobedience, right? He went, they said, don't march. He said, look, marching is legal, so we're going to do it peacefully. So they peacefully marched. They came, got dog sicked on them, beat to crap, and then boom, no internet, but the newspapers. Peaceful crowd getting brutalized by the police. So he did the same. George Floyd situation kind of was almost a reincarnation, in a sense, of what King accomplished, just to say, hey, look, here's a snapshot of what we already know about police brutality, white supremacy. And I think that's a problem. It didn't solve the problem. It just proved that it actually exists beyond denial. And I'll land my plane by saying this. In my opinion, what MLK really accomplished, and it really took his death to accomplish that. And that's a whole nother problem with that nonviolent philosophy, because it goes against our nature. Our nature tells us that, hey, everything we do on a day-to-day basis is to make sure that we preserve our life as long as possible. And not only our lives, but the lives of our children, our posterity. But the nonviolent philosophy goes in the face of that. It says, hey, put yourself in the way of violence.
Well, I'm gonna be bold enough to say this, and I think, like I said, if Jesus was on this earth, he would get killed the same way. So his sacrifice, what he did, if we are Christian or whatever religion, Pentecostal, Baptist, was in vain. What he did, what Dr. Martin Luther King did, was in vain for what he did. Malcolm X, it wasn't in vain what he did, because once he came into the truth, when it come to Muslim, when he went to Mecca, after he heard everything that Muhammad had done, and he went to the source like we do as Christians, when we feel like we done did our spiritual climb and we feel empty and we say it's more than this, you always step outside the Bible
That's right.
and get the source, the truth. And you look what happened to Malcolm X. When he went to Mecca and seen it was everybody, white, Caucasian, African American, they was all praising Allah. He came back with a different philosophy, a different belief, and they killed him for it because it was going to expose them. It exposed them. Malcolm X got killed because he exposed what the philosophy that they taught on this side wasn't the same philosophy that was the truth of where the source really came from. Just like with us, with Christianity, the way that Caucasians created Christianity wasn't the same Christianity when y'all went into Egypt. Kemet with Alexander the Great started with the Ptolemies. It wasn't the same Christianity as now. So it was one-sided. So that's why I'm saying I don't knock Dr. Martin Luther King what he did. It's almost, I could boldly say he didn't know no better. And if he did know no better and he still chose to take this route, then he was a sellout.
Did he fail? Did he fail, or did, I'm gonna say we for lack of better terms, because our generation wasn't born when he died in 1968. But did he fail? I'm gonna say, or did we fail to take the baton and run with what he started?
Cause I'll be bold. And so now that I know our culture, we didn't fail. If anything, I say he failed.
Okay.
I'll be bold enough to say he failed. Because if he knew, because a lot of people say he knew the truth. He knew, like they say that speech that he said, I had a dream. He was breaking the Masonic code far as quote unquote the Masons creed. So he was giving people a hindsight that he knew something more than what we knew, but he said it in that speech to where unless you knew what he was saying, you ain't know what he was saying. It was like G-coded. So I feel like it was more so he failed us than us failing him, or taking the torch of what he started, just like Malcolm X.
So it was on him. So
it was on him, just like Malcolm X. It was on him. We only taken from knowledge that you knew, but you didn't give us a template to go get the knowledge that you learned so we could capitalize on what you left for us to do.
I like that. So he didn't, we went off based off what he shared, right?
Yes.
But he didn't give us the template to what he actually knew. That's a powerful statement. Now I'm gonna just restate it.
That's why we ain't got better. You told us what to do.
Not what he knew. But let me jump in with this. I think that again, he was a believer. I think he knew a lot of stuff because he had to study.
Yeah.
But I think one of his downfalls was that he was a Christian. Because, and I talked to one of my other friends who I mentioned to you from time to time about this, and I say, because he has a pro-black mindset, but he's also a Christian. So he tries to interpret Christianity as if it serves a pro-black purpose. And I have to remind him, nah, that book, that Bible, the way it reads does not lead somebody in a pro-black program. I have to tell him, that's your mindset. You combining your mindset with your faith, and that's how you get that. But you can't get that just from reading that book. Now, I say that to say this. MLK was believing in Jesus to change the hearts of people and then create this utopian society of integration, right? But at the end of the day, the problem with that philosophy is he is giving his power away. He is not taking control. He's saying, look, we just gonna march and let you beat the crap out of us and then hope that somebody seeing us getting beat is gonna come do something. So he's in Christianity as a philosophy. That's what it does. It constantly says, you know what? The power's not in you. The power is in this other entity. So what I need you to do is for you to enter your power, and then you wait and hope for that entity or that God to respond through other people. You're giving your power away. And Malcolm X, his approach was to take control of the situation. And here's the other thing I say about MLK. The Christian philosophy was not going to get it done for what we need. And I think it still can't get it done. And kudos to the genius of MLK, but that's where his efforts fell short, is the fact that it was based on a Christian philosophy, and that has inherent limitations. But right, like you mentioned, right before he was assassinated, he was changing. And I think there was one of his speeches, not in 1968, not long before he was assassinated, he started talking about economic withdrawal. Then MLK was starting to take the offensive instead of the defensive. He was like, look, he looked around and he realized, hold on. Black people everywhere hear my voice. If I say, look, we're going to boycott them buses, we hit them in the pockets. And then if I take that same energy and say, you know what? We're going to take that we're going to economically withdraw from this business, from this industry, from this industry. We're going to start getting attention. When he started talking like that, bam. Wrap.
Gone.
But he didn't leave that template, like you said. That I guess we got to give him credit, because in this respect, the Montgomery bus boycott was successful. They didn't. It was a small model, but they said, look, we need that transportation. They making us sit in the back. You know what? We ain't gonna take this disrespect. We gonna take the power into our own hands. We gonna carpool and withdraw our money from that bus system. The bus system suffered so much that it had to say, okay, you know what? What are your demands? We gonna work with you because you done hit us where it hurt. So he gave us that model, but that's not the part of his philosophy that's magnified after his death. It's only the integration. I have a dream, keep it nonviolent, stay docile. That's all that's promoted when it comes to him.
And I will bring this into effect. Everybody know that Black people are a spiritual people. We love ourselves some God. Right. We get real emotional and everything about God, or the spiritual thing. The word God is a name that we didn't create. It was a name that a Caucasian created, or whoever wrote the Bible. That's who we call God. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna be bold enough to say that. God ain't the ancient name.
It's got Germanic roots. It's a recent word.
It's a recent word. So God, Jesus, ain't a current name. But since they know we are a spiritual people, let's look at it. Martin Luther King was a spiritual man. He was a Christian man. So in a way, it's a way to keep us stagnated, but in a way, it's to keep us thinking we fuck with y'all. We got y'all back. So it's like we took Dr. Martin Luther King. That was our Jesus as far as Christianity. That was sacrificed, turn the other cheek.
You brought back another point. Okay.
So Martin Luther King was a Jesus for our time, to get his ass whooped, get beat on, and in a way look like shit has changed for a martyr, but nothing hasn't changed. So you know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like, no, it's like enough is enough. It's like it's so much bullshit until we.
Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this, because you brought this up. You brought it back around, and I forgot to ask it. You said that MLK was like the Jesus Christ of our time, and I agree. He was a and even it's known. I think you got this book that I had told you about, Racial Matters. You got that one?
Oh, yes, sir. I got
Racial
that.
Matters. I think they talk about in here somewhere like the rise of a Black Messiah or whatever the case is.
Yeah, that's the movie that came out by Fred Hampton and all them guys.
Yeah. So
the Black Panther movement.
Right. So that book highlights the fact that, as Tariq Nasheed says, the dominant society monitors Black people because they're looking for the rise of a messianic figure or Messiah figure, a charismatic leader, a voice who can mobilize and take the masses in a certain direction. And Martin Luther King was that, and Malcolm X for that matter. And both of them became martyrs. So they were types of Christ in our lifetime, or, you know, not quite, but in our generation, or whatever the case, however you want to say it.
For
us. But here's my question to you. Do you think we need to get rid of that philosophy of the sacrificial leader? Because Jesus sets that template that, you know, you're supposed to come out here and lead and all of this, and you're supposed to give your life. I'm talking about your physical life. I ain't talking about, because your time, your blood, sweat, and tears is just as much of your life as is dying. And you would be better served if you could give your life through your effort, energy, finances, time, and accomplish the mission and still live to see it. But we celebrate this martyrdom, this death. Somebody speaks, they die, we celebrate them. Don't you think we need to get rid of that? Don't you think we need to wash out that philosophy?
I can boldly say that because guess what? The Jesus that died was white.
Okay.
Serapeus. Let's really find out what that name Jesus means from Serapeus, from all the Ptolemies.
He was white. I mean, that's a whole nother.
No. But I know that's a whole nother topic. But I'm just saying that so if anybody listening, I'm going deep. That Jesus came from Serapeus, and then the name came into Jesus. But guess what? And that Serapeus that I'm talking about look like to Jesus today, and it's benefiting the same people that's reaping the benefits of abundance from the same skin tone of Serapeus that was Caucasian.
I'm gonna throw something deep on you real quick. You know, the concept of death, burial, and resurrection was here long before Jesus. Yep. You know what Jesus is the whole thing about Jesus is that he died, he was buried, he was resurrected. Right now, he lives in a new form. Right. Mm-hmm. But that concept was here long before Jesus. That concept was here, and of course, like you mentioned earlier, ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, with Horus and Osiris. And one would die. When the king died, he was Osiris, lord of the underworld, saving souls in the underworld, and he would resurrect as Horus, the sun, on the throne. And they took that concept of death, burial, and resurrection from the sun, because that was the behavior of the sun. When it was in the sky on the throne, when it went below the horizon, it was in the underworld, and when it re-emerged, it was a resurrection. So they took that, they personified that in their religious pantheon with Osiris and Horus. And then Jesus was an emulation of that same thing. It wasn't original, like you said. It came through Serapeus, and then Serapeus' name died, and it was resurrected as Jesus Christ. The problem is Jesus Christ, his resurrection is not serving us because the resurrection was not ours. That resurrection belonged to another group of people with another agenda and another culture. That's why when Serapeus, who came from Europeans, was a way to infiltrate an African spiritual system. Now, when the Romans emerged, they said, you know what? We need to kill that so that we can kill the influence of Egyptian culture. rebrand that and resurrect it as a different entity, Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. So one of the problems with our philosophy is we allow it to be designed by people who ain't a part of our group and who don't have our best interests at heart. So it don't matter how many Easters you're going to go to, how many death, burial, and resurrection. Even Martin Luther King's death, burial, and resurrection is not serving us because he physically died and we appreciate his sacrifice. But when he was resurrected, do we have control of his resurrection? No. Who got control of his resurrection?
Did we benefit from him dying?
Nah.
No.
Who got control of his resurrection, though? The media. Because the media says we're going to take his voice and we're going to determine the messages that you hear every January 15th so we can continue to push the version of the philosophy that we want using his voice.
To keep us docile while we keep winning.
And unfortunately, as much as I respect Dr. King because he's one of my favorite people in history because of his oratory, his communication skill. But the same problem that was present with his philosophy when he was alive is present today. And that is his philosophy is to give his power away for someone else to do something about his problem.
And that's where I was coming from when I said when I felt like he has died in vain and he has to keep being relived and he died in vain. Because when we learn or know what you just said and cleaned up what I just said, until we get to that point, he's going to always, what he went through, it wasn't planned for him to be a martyr. Malcolm X knew that he was going to get killed. He knew it was coming. Martin Luther King didn't know it. But
I don't know. He might. Okay.
Martin Luther King might have knew it was coming. But it's like he would die in vain. Just like I say, if Jesus, quote unquote, the Jesus that they talk about in the Bible came back, he would have to keep reliving that and dying over and over again because people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear reality. So that's why I say it. I feel like Jesus, Martin Luther King, and Malcolm X, it was in vain because nothing has changed. Let's use Jesus for instance. He been dead a long time ago, but where's the equal opportunity? Where is the fair share where everybody? Hey. Let's keep it real. I'm just being honest. I'll be on the phone. I can die right now. If Jesus died that long ago, why is it so fucked up now?
Hell, you know what? Why did slavery even happen? You know what I mean? Like if his
died way before slavery, but if you
that's a harsh reality that people who believe in Jesus do not want to face. They want to deflect on that all day. The
hair was a wool, skin was a bronze.
His death, burial, resurrection. His death, burial, resurrection did not have enough power to prevent the people who introduced him to us from killing us. So,
exactly.
So again, if his death, burial, resurrection can't stop the very people who bringing him to us from killing and exploiting us, what good is
it was in vain? It was in vain.
For us, for sure, it was in vain.
It was in vain.
But
we ain't winning from it. If he died for us and the child of God, we should be the ones controlling everything. If we want to look at it from a humanistic standpoint, we should be controlling everything. Just off that simple fact that God sent his son and he looked at like us. Why we ain't controlling the goddamn thing?
Well, we know. I mean, we know what that is.
Yeah, we know.
We ain't gonna break that down, but that's enough. It's enough to show that ain't nothing changed. When I said with Jesus dying and allegedly resurrected, when I say ain't nothing changed, and even it's even a scripture because see the people who was writing that stuff back in the 2nd century or whenever it was, they knew that it was BS, so they had to write it in there, because the Bible says that it is probably in First and Second Thessalonians somewhere in there. It says the Lord is not slack concerning his promises, as some say, right? Because people back then were saying, hey, where is he at? He been saying that he was going to return and do this for hundreds of years. We don't see no Jesus. So they had to write in there. They had to write in the New Testament, the Lord is not slack concerning his promises, as some say. At this point, I almost want to quote it directly. Let me just, let's see. The Lord is not slack concerning his promises. Let me see if it can give me the scripture. The Lord is not slack, boom, 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 concerning his promise. Okay, 2 Peter 3:9. It says, the Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some count slackness, but is long suffering toward us, not willing that any should perish, but all should come to repentance. Mm-hmm. And let's see what it says after verse 9. And then it goes on to say that, verse 8 says, don't forget this one thing, that one day with the Lord is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years a day. The Lord ain't slack concerning his promises, as some say he is, but he is patient toward us, not willing that any should perish. So the excuse that the Bible gives for Jesus not coming and dealing with the mess down here is that he's patient. And he don't want to end everything now, because then a bunch of people go to hell. So y'all just keep suffering while we wait for these people to finish all their sin and debauchery, as the Bible says, so that I can save as many as I can. In reality, the people who wrote that were hearing, they had their ears to the street, and they know people were calling bullshit on it back then. Man, this guy ain't nobody coming back. So they had to go and pin that in there. He ain't slack concerning his promises. The day of, and then they try to scare you in verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt away with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works shall be burned up. Therefore, since all this stuff is going to happen, what type of holy conduct and behavior you should have? Keep on living. That promise ain't happened. You've been waiting forever, but keep on living. So they already had their ears to the street and knew people was calling bull crap on the death, burial, resurrection, and return of Jesus, and they had to go and put something in there to shut people up.
And I'm gonna jump on the other side of the spectrum of what you're saying, and I'm gonna go before February, even though we talking about January, quote unquote 15th.
Black History.
Dr. Martin Luther King. If it's so much Black people's February, why haven't they allowed us to put some heavyweights that did their due diligence, historians, lecturers, professors, John Henry Clark, Dr. Joseph Ben, Dr. Ivan Sertimer? Why don't they allow us to control our Black history if it's Black history? Everything about Black history is orchestrated through the schools, through the media. Why, if Black history is our Black history, why y'all in control of that?
Here's my thought when you saying that. I just talked about, in order for the resurrection to benefit you, you got to control the resurrection.
Okay.
We ain't control Dr. King's resurrection. We ain't control the and when I say control the resurrection, I mean the narrative that lives on after the vessel passes, right? So because we don't control it, the folks that do control it, they don't want certain people to resurrect. They want some people to stay buried. And the people who they allow to resurrect, their voice to continue, they want to control that narrative. So a Dr. Ben, a John Henry Clark, a Dr. Ivan Van Sertimer, what's the sister name?
Dr. Smalls.
Dr.
Anderson.
Smalls is still here.
Dr. Anderson.
All of them guys, they want to keep them buried because they don't want to resurrect them, because they want to control the message or the resurrection of the historians. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is where I'm taking it, and we can wrap it up in the next 10.
Yeah.
I think we owe something to Dr. Martin Luther King, just like we owe something to all the people we name it. Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben. What's the lady who wrote the ISIS papers name? Man, why is
you know who she is? I don't know, but you know
Dr.
who I'm
Frances Cress Welsing. That's her. You know,
why we ain't speaking about them for February?
Let me close it because you said it, because we don't control, but I'm gonna close it and I'm gonna let you give your thoughts. We owe all of them something, to include Dr. Martin Luther King, even though his message was misleading, because there were parts of his message that can be used. So I feel like, since we understand that we can resurrect these voices, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Yeah. We can control a resurrection just as much as any other media outlet, to give voice to the proper aspects of a person's life and leadership, like a Martin Luther King. We don't have to emphasize "I had a dream." We can emphasize economic withdrawal. We don't have to emphasize "I don't have a dream." We can we can emphasize. We don't have to emphasize "I don't have a dream." We can emphasize the bus boycotts and the principles that went into that, right? And then we can resurrect and continue the voices of all of these people, right?
There we go.
We owe them to do that.
Once we learn the people before Dr. Martin Luther King, everything we said, we will keep doing right now. But he didn't give us a template or the education or the means why we need to keep it going. Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Joseph Ben, Dr. Ivan Sertima, Dr. Smalls, some of these people still living. What Dr. Martin Luther King said, "I had a dream," we would still be pushing it. That dream that he would have would have been already a fucking reality. But it would already been a reality. But the powers that be is controlling Dr. Martin Luther King message to where we stay in sleep instead of us being fucking woke.
I think one thing we gotta be aware of is what we can control. Mm-hmm. You know, like you said, what part of his messages should live on? Yeah. What part of his messages are relevant in 2024? For those people who enjoy reading history and studying this stuff, I think, in my opinion, in church and Christianity, they always talking about what's God's purpose for your life, and purpose, and destiny. I personally believe that your purpose and your destiny is tied to your ancestry, because that's what the Creator used to get you here, that bloodline of people. So it's for you to continue improving upon the plight of your own people. And I think we can look back when we study and we look at the voices of the MLK, Malcolm X, John Henry Clark, all of them folks. We can echo and add to the voice in a way that's relevant for today. And I think that's what we owe them.
That right, what you just said, that's already our purpose right there.
That's what I'm saying.
That's already our purpose.
I agree.
Our ancestors.
I agree. and I think religion overcomplicates that. I think religion convolutes it. It makes religion has you looking away from your ancestry, and it got you looking in the sky like this. God, you got people beside their bed at night. Lord, tell me what my purpose is, please, Lord. You know, and what
religion takes you away from your purpose. It don't bring you to your purpose. I can boldly say that.
Facts.
With no regrets.
Religion takes you away from your purpose. It takes you away from your ancestry. It takes you away from your people. Your purpose. It takes you away from your people. Therefore, it takes you away from your purpose.
Everything. Religion. Muslim, Christianity, whatever you want to call it. It takes you away from your purpose.
Facts. Yeah. That's what's up, man. I mean, I think we, we touched on it. Just to kind of round it up, again, it's January 15th. It's Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. Tremendous respect to the giant Martin Luther King Jr. But we owe it to him and other giants to examine his work the same way we examine that Bible. As much as respect we have for that Bible, and we say, hold on, something about this ain't working, scratch your head. Oh, we got to go examine. And then once we find the truth, we adjust accordingly. I think we have to treat our giants the same way. Maintain the respect for them, maintain the respect, but acknowledging what aspects of their philosophy is not relevant in the time in which we live, and place an emphasis on the aspect of their philosophies that should live on and can take us into the future. So
that fits us and benefit us.
That fits us in this day and in this time.
Exactly. And I ain't heard nobody. I've been sitting here watching TV, and nobody is nobody is coming from that angle.
You are.
I am. Yeah.
You are right now. Yeah. You are right now. And I think that's all you're gonna get. Yeah. And again, I think that's a part of our indebtedness to an MLK, because you know that you can't look to your TV screen and see and hear what should be seen and heard in 2024 from the giant MLK. Therefore, you have to get on YouTube. You got to get on the live stream, who've done the due diligence, the research, who's vetted the facts, and knows what works in this day and time, and give voice to that. Period. That's what we got to do.
If we don't, in the next 10 years, this Dr. Martin Luther King, he's going to be brought down to like a Christopher Columbus, a non-effect. And I think that's what they're gravitating to. That's why they got control of it. Because I feel like they're going to phase Dr. Martin Luther King out like they did Christopher Columbus, to the point where it's not even called Christopher Columbus Day. What's the other name they call it now?
Indigenous Peoples Day or something like that.
Indigenous People Day.
Yeah.
If we don't take into consideration what we talking about now, Dr. Martin Luther King holiday is going to be, you think about all of the people that did work like him or more than what he did, why ain't it's more holidays for us? It's only Dr. Martin Luther King. Think about it.
Yeah, he was a big presence. You know what I'm saying?
Think about it. But before him, it's major people that put in work just like him or better than him. Harriet Tubman. Where's the Harriet Tubman Day?
We know what it is.
Okay, then. So it's the reason why they use him, and I think it's because of Christianity, and he pushed peace while
he's
they
digestible.
Made him.
He's digestible.
Exactly.
Malcolm X was just as big, just as effective, but
Nat Turner.
He wasn't digestible to the public because Malcolm X's loyalty was to his ancestry, to his people. And Martin Luther King's, I can't say that his loyalty was not to his people, but he did not. It's hard to say like that.
He was a house nigga. He was a house nigga.
Once you start integrating stuff, you dilute the purpose. It's like you saying, I'm a father and I know I got to feed my family, but it's some other kids out there running around too. So instead of feeding your family and then seeing what you got left to go deal with them other kids, you say, help everybody just come in here together and let me take the food that's for my family and distribute it among the community. That's kind of the integration. You still are focusing on your people, but you diluting the focus because you're trying to bring in everybody. Let's love everybody.
So Dr. Martin Luther King really for his people? Because everybody else was really for their people. Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, John Horton.
I know your answer to that is no, but I would say
he was a house nigga.
I would say he was for his people, because I don't think anybody would shed blood who are not for their people.
Yep.
However, I think his philosophy was misguided. His philosophy was misguided, and because he had a misguided philosophy, he didn't get the results for his people that he desired. Because I believe in his heart, he saw what he wanted, but because because the philosophy was rooted in fairy tale, the reality was also a fairy tale.
Yep.
And the fairy tale was that Christianity, it was that Bible that made you
Yep.
think if I give my power away to some other people, God can change them and change the situation. Fairy tale. Fairy tale. And I think he sincerely believed that, but it was misguided philosophy. And I stand on that. Christianity is a misguided philosophy. And if we gonna use that, it's gotta be repurposed to suit our agenda. Period. Otherwise, it's gonna disappoint you every time.
It's gonna disappoint us, and that's why I said that what you just said. That's why I felt like what he went through was in vain.
Yeah.
Until we get on board and do the opposite of what you just said, then his legacy and what he started, we would still be doing. We would already still be boycotting. We were already doing what you said, that taking our money and putting it somewhere else. But since we ain't living by that, his death was in vain.
Yeah.
It was in vain. Name one time where what he did, we done one, even taking our money somewhere else. It ain't happened.
I got you.
It ain't happened. So his death to me was in vain. Outside of Christianity, the things that he did to make it better for us, we ain't did that yet. So I hate when people get on these TVs like Charles Barkley, Candace, and Shaq. They don't bring up this. They talk politically correct.
Yeah, they can't. We can't rely on them to bring this up.
Yeah. So we got to do it.
Give us your final. Are these your final? Is this how you want to end it? Are these your final thoughts?
Well, or you can set me up for my final thoughts. It don't matter.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your final thoughts, and then we'll close. You were just saying that his death was in vain. It didn't serve the purpose that was needed. So I'll let you continue with that and give us your final thoughts on Martin Luther King's dream in 2024.
Well, what I can say for Dr. Martin Luther King dream for 2024, we need to get real on our culture, and we need to get real understanding our history. If we don't understand our history, just not Dr. Martin Luther King, John Horse, Baz Reeves, all these people that I'm learning about now, what they did is in vain. Because even though we got TV shows that's bringing them to the forefront, you got to understand who's bringing them to the forefront. It's not from our money. It's from Caucasian people bringing it to the forefront. But is that the whole story about these people? Why can't we have the information and the resources to understand who these people was in fullness, and without nobody controlling it but our own people? And that goes for Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Why do we have to hear about these people's stories, and we ain't the ones that's narrating the story? We ain't the ones that's pushing.
You don't own the platform. I mean, so
we don't own none of the platforms. We don't own nothing about these people that represented us. Until we get to a point where we want that, we gonna always be misled, and we gonna always be manipulated, controlled, and how Malcolm X said, hoodwinked, bamboozled. Until we get to that, it's almost like we need to shut the fuck up, or we need to not play into these holidays that they're telling us to celebrate. I truly believe if we said fuck February as Black History Month and don't pay no attention to it, and we be the ones that don't glorify Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, not in the sense that we don't care, we not entertaining the narrative that you pushing, then shit'll change. When I see that, then I know we the real deal. They'll realize that we can't, they not playing around. But as long as we entertain these TV shows, these commercials, and playing that we shall overcome lock and arm bullshit, they're going to keep pushing their agenda.
Gotcha. Well said. And I think I can I would echo some of that. I would say that two key words that I latched on from everything you just said was the narrative and attention. Narrative and attention. And again, I've said this before early in the stream, and I'll say it again. Those are two things that we can control. Our own narrative and where we place our own attention, right? Those are choices that we can make. And I think we have to start with those choices, where we place our attention and how our narrative is articulated. And I think that stuff is currency. That stuff is power in that. You might not control the narrative on a massive scale. You might not command attention on a massive scale, but you can do it little by little. You can start with yourself. You can start with the people in your immediate circle. You can start with your voice. And I think that's what we should do. And with directing our attention and controlling our narrative, we can resurrect the best of our heroes, the best of our giants, and the best aspects of heroes who may have misled the masses, such as, we see MLK now when we look back on his work. We can resurrect the best aspects of him because some of the stuff that he articulated is relevant, but it remains buried because the folks who had the power to resurrect his voice on the mass level are not interested. That part of who he was doesn't serve their agenda, but because it serves ours, I think we owe it to him to resurrect that part of his message, and we owe it to the other giants to resurrect and evolve the messages that they left behind for us. So those are my last thoughts. So appreciate you. It's getting late. I don't know how long we went. Maybe around an hour or some change, but appreciate your insight. We got to do this more often. Let me throw something out there. Lil Nas X had a controversial video where he was Jesus Christ in the thing, and people up in arms about it. Neo X, one of the folks who was on the live stream when I was on another channel, I think she's doing a live stream about it now. If you get a chance, watch the video, see what you think about it. Lil Nas X, you know who he is, right?
Yeah, I know.
It's probably gonna come up immediately, whatever the video is. He playing Jesus. So look at it, see what you think. Let's talk about it and see if there's anything that we need to discuss there, and we can jump back up here.
Okay, bet.
but for the night, don't go anywhere. But I'm gonna sign us out. So to the viewers, whoever's watching, appreciate you. Peace out. Until next time, we out.
All right, peace.